dress code live for you.
Talking sports with the MVPs. That's Miller, Vicari, and Passante. NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, college sports, whatever you need. An MVP show where you need to be. Sports radio on VIC. That's MVP. Sundays on VIC. That's MVP. Sports Talk Radio. VIC.
3, 2, 1, here we go.
Welcome into the MVP show for April 11th, 2021. I'm John Vicari, joined alongside by Brennan Miller and Dan Passante. Boys, a rainy day up here in Ithaca, but a lot of sports to talk about locally, nationally. A lot to discuss on this fine Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, I'm pumped. It's Masters Sunday for the second time in a very short amount of time. Obviously, they played the Masters a different time last year than they would be normally playing it this year. So I'm very excited because anytime that there's golf on, I'm going to watch it.
Yeah, and we'll get Brennan's updates from the Masters pretty much right before every break throughout the hour. And you mentioned it, Brennan. The last time we had the Masters was in November. So in the same year, we're going to have 2 shows with Masters updates throughout. Now, the first time we did it, you were holding a golf club.
Yeah, I decided not to bring the golf club in to the studio today. I could have. I thought about it. My clubs are in my car. And we played yesterday. Shot a 48 yesterday.
Wow.
Not bad. 48 on 9. Let's keep that in context.
Sure.
I decided not to. It's probably not good for, as John would say, optics to bring a quote-unquote weapon into the studio. So
I didn't think of
decided
that.
against it.
Yeah.
Whatever. Can't bring the golf club. Fine. No, I'm looking forward to the Masters updates. It's going to be as electric as last time, I'm sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's better than the actual Masters, but, that's just my opinion.
That's fine.
I don't know if that's a backhand compliment.
I do find it very odd that in all aspects of life, you are essentially a 58, 59-year-old man, except for when it comes to your like of golf. It doesn't really seem to line up for me, to be honest.
I could watch it. It's just like after a while, I'm not gonna wake up and, what did it start at 10 a.m. today?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna wake up and at 10 a.m. on a Sunday and put on something that's gonna, like boring, and it's not even happening. If a final round, absolutely. Will I, glance at it today? Sure.
They got the Shambo on the screen right now, the big boy that not many people like, but it's about 400 yards, so you can't really be opposed to that.
He's protein powdered to Shambo, but yeah.
Yes.
So but I mean, again, like I'll watch when it's the final round, but I'm not gonna watch yesterday. I'm not gonna watch definitely the first 2 rounds. I don't know. I don't know.
The guy who's been in first now has been in first, for consistently. That's the thing about golf is that you have to be consistently good over every single one of your rounds. Like Hideki Matsuyama is in first right now. He's 11 under. He's got a 4-stroke lead because he has been so good over the last few days. And I think that's the difference with a lot of sports in golf is that you have to be on your game 100% of the time. Like you cannot fault for a round because if you fault for a round, there is 0 chance that you're going to be getting back into the match because there's people behind you who are playing just as good or the best golf that they've ever played, and they're going to be up and contending at all times. So you have to be consistent on however many swings. I mean, par 72, so whatever. However many swings that you take, 72 times 4, I'm not good at math. But that's the difference between golf and a lot of sports, though, is that you have to be playing 100%, 100% of the time.
Absolutely. And you could segue into our opening topic about consistency because it matters in professional sports, and it matters at the quarterback position. And that's why the Jets elected to not keep Sam Darnold for this upcoming season, dealt him to the Carolina Panthers. This happened on Monday, but I think we need to talk about it mainly because, hey, it's one of New York's biggest sports teams, and it's not a running back or a third cornerback getting traded. It's their quarterback. It's the person who was deemed the franchise when drafted in 2018. So the Jets sent him to the Carolina Panthers for a 6th-round pick in 2021, a 2nd round, and a 4th-round pick in the 2022 NFL draft. And my first takeaway was just, with that. Because Sam Darnold, I feel, has never gotten a fair shake. Obviously, he had 3 seasons to prove his worth in New York, and I understand that. And at the quarterback position, you're under the microscope more, as I mentioned, than anyone else. You get all the credit, but you also get all the criticism. And when the Jets, who were for a long time last year historically bad, Sam Darnold was at the helm. Is it all Sam Darnold's fault the last 3 seasons? I would say he's not the least bit of their concerns because there still was concerning play from Darnold. But to pretend that he was the main reason for the Jets' failures over the last 3 years, I don't think is correct. You look at him in terms of his 38 game start as a New York Jet, 13-25. He had 8,097 yards and a touchdown to interception ratio, 49 touchdowns, 39 interceptions. Obviously didn't live up to the hype, but didn't get a fair shake in my opinion. You could look, if you're trying to defend the fact that they got rid of Sam Darnold and that he was the problem, sure. The Jets throughout these couple of years have had a solid defense. It's never really been bottom of the NFL. They haven't had a great defense by any means, but they haven't been dreadfully bad in terms of defense. Maybe defensive play calling, especially this season, going back to Greg Williams, but in terms of the talent on the defense, especially the 2 seasons prior to this last one, the Jets were there. And of course, the Jets did try and bring in a top offensive position and personnel and skill player in Le'Veon Bell that just didn't work out. But the reason it didn't work out, and the reason why I really don't hit Sam Darnold as the reason that the Jets' failures of the last 3 years, is Adam Gase. Adam Gase couldn't make Le'Veon Bell work, and Adam Gase couldn't make Sam Darnold work. I don't think it's on Darnold. I think he was in a bad system. Now, do I think some people think he's going to go over to Carolina and he's going to turn into a top 10 NFL quarterback? I don't think that's going to happen either because I think his ceiling, I don't think his ceiling is that high. That's just my opinion on it. But in terms of looking at his tenure with the New York Jets, I feel he didn't get a 100% fair shake. But that's life in the NFL as well. You have to, you're dealt with the cards that are in front of you, and it will be the case for whoever the Jets draft in number 2, because obviously you would hope that the Jets improve from last year to this year, but they're not a playoff team. They're not going to be thrust into a situation, whoever this next quarterback is, for a winning situation. It just won't be. It's going to be a not slow, but a steady, I would say, rebuild for the Jets. But Brennan, Dan, I want to get your opinions. Do you think Sam Darnold just was never to be, even with the proper coach and proper skill players, or he's going to find success elsewhere?
I just don't think that he's a good quarterback. I mean, I don't think it has as much to do with the Jets as you're making it out to be. I just really don't think that he has the arm talent to be able to last in the NFL. I will give, he did not have great receivers. His best receiver, while he was with the New York Jets, was Robbie Anderson, who is now his teammate in Carolina. So really nothing changes. I'm not entirely sure why all of a sudden Sam Darnold is going to be a good quarterback because he goes to Carolina, who last year Teddy Bridgewater did not have a great year as a quarterback. So I don't know what the big deal about that is. Darnold is just not good. I'm just genuinely confused about where we see the potential for Sam Darnold to be this quarterback that everyone kind of expected him to be when he was first entered the draft. Yes, he's young. I get it. He's younger than Joe Burrow, which is just wild in the first part. But still, he's a young guy, and yes, he has some time to develop as a quarterback, but right now, I don't think he's going to be a guy that ends up being a top 10, a top 15 quarterback in the league at any point in his career. He's going to be a guy who just, continues to be, mediocre, I guess. I feel bad, and obviously I don't think he's going to listen to the show, so I don't feel bad about it. But I feel bad, calling him this, but he's just not a good quarterback, and he does not play at the level that you expect an NFL level that you expect a guy who's going to go out and win games and help get you to the playoffs. He doesn't play at that level.
It will be interesting to see what he does in Carolina. Dan, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at some of his stats that I have listed right in front of me right here, they just kind of seem inconclusive to me. He's never played every game. His first season, he had 2,800 yards. 2019, he had 3,000. 2020, he had 2,200. Not great average yards, a lot of interceptions, but he had some touch. It's kind of I don't really know what to make it. It doesn't sway me either way, looking at the numbers, in other words. So, now obviously the Jets are making a change, and regardless of, whether they should have or should not have done it, for Sam Darnold, this is great to get out of New York and to go down to Carolina and, probably be in a better situation where he might find more success. Yeah, I don't know. I'd love to sit here and like definitively say something about Sam Darnold, but I feel like, given the circumstances with Gase, I don't know if I can say it. But you make a good point about the arm talent there, Brennan. I don't know. I'd like to totally bury him as well, but I mean, well, not totally bury him. You know what I mean? But another quarterback in the AFC East, Josh Allen. He really struggled early on, and he found it, but he improved a lot season to season. Something that we're not really seeing with Darnold. I just, after listening to you guys and looking at the numbers, I just feel inconclusive about Sam Darnold. To be honest with you, I guess I'll find out if he's good in his fourth year, which is such a weird thing to say.
And I guess it plays to my point too, like the fact that you don't really know what to make of him, and he's been the starter for 3 seasons.
Yeah,
like I think Brennan does. I think you feel fully like Sam Darnold's complete strengths and weaknesses.
At this point, he's played in the NFL for 3 years.
So 38 games.
Right.
Yeah.
He has experience as a starter at the NFL level, and he has not done anything with it. I mean, last season, he was either, of all qualified quarterbacks, he was either worst or second worst with Drew Lock in passer rating. He's not a guy that you can send out there and say, make a play for me, do something special to get my team over the edge. Like, the thing about these great quarterbacks, you look at Aaron Rodgers, you look at Tom Brady, you look at Patrick Mahomes, even go to the past, Peyton Manning, they do extra things. They don't just go out there and manage. We talk about it all the time, game managers in the NFL. They don't just go out and manage a game. They are game changers. And Sam Darnold is not that. He's never been that. I mean, USC was not a team that was super explosive when he was their quarterback. And he will never be that because that's just not how he plays. He's not a guy that can go out, run around. The one play that everyone likes to show is when he faked to the right, did a roll out to the left, and then threw across his body and hit, I forget who it was, over the middle. And then, that's a great play, but to be an NFL-level quarterback, you have to be able to make that play. It's not anything that we haven't seen Patrick Mahomes do. It's not anything we haven't seen Aaron Rodgers do. Tom Brady, maybe. He's not, the most gifted physically, but, he's got the arm, and he knows. But
he's no Aaron Rodgers.
No, he's not. Physically, athletically. But then a video came out, and it was Mitch Trubisky doing the same exact play that Sam Darnold just did. It looks great. It's a tough play to make. But if you're an NFL quarterback, it's a play that you are expected to make, not something that you should get praised for when it's one play out of 38 starts for the New York Jets. It just doesn't make any sense why all of a sudden he goes to Carolina, who is a bad team. They're not going to compete in that NFC South, especially with Tom Brady and not Drew Brees, but the New Orleans Saints, who were a contender in the NFC to make it to the Super Bowl last year. They're not going to compete, so I don't know why all of a sudden going to Carolina is going to save his career.
And one final note on this, obviously, GM Joe Douglas, this is his, I believe, second draft with the New York Jets, and he obviously was in charge in Philadelphia and had a role there and a scout for a long time, but this, in my opinion, is the most important draft of his career and, of course, of his Jets tenure, because you cannot mess up this number 2 pick. And as we get closer to draft day, which is at the end of April, the first night of the draft, April 29th, so a little more than 2 weeks away from that. But as it gets closer, we'll look at all 3 of our teams in terms of the draft picks at all 3 New York teams, I should say, or 2 New Jersey, 1 New York, to remain technical, but sure. We'll look at the NFL draft and those prospects, but right now it feels like Zach Wilson of BYU will be the Jets quarterback, and by all accounts, he's supposed to be a bona fide stud and a can't miss. We'll see with the Jets. I like Wilson a lot, but as we get closer, that's what is supposed to be the pick from Douglas, and if Douglas does something creative with that pick, like trades it or doesn't go with the script, doesn't go chalk and doesn't pick Wilson, he's definitely going to be under a lot of scrutiny because a lot of the Jets faithful right now want to draft Wilson in that number 2 slot. So that's a little Jets discussion. I know in April football to open, but with the quarterback on the move, that's what we deemed as a good open. And of course, because it's April, it means it's the Masters. And Brennan giving us our first update.
Thank you very much, Dan, for that music.
Anytime.
I'd like to bring it down a little bit and play a golf level. So The news from the Masters today. We have not had a winner decided yet. But we have Hideki Matsuyama in first place. He is 11 under. He has a 4-stroke lead over anyone in second place. Xander Schauffele is up there. Let me get back to my list here. Leishman, Justin Rose, Zalatorius, all at 7 under. They all tee off after 2 p.m. today, so really nobody on the course as of yet is a contender, unfortunately, for Bryson DeChambeau. We look at what happened in the last few days here at the Masters. We have had some legends, not legends, but guys who are contenders usually going into these events not make the cut. Dustin Johnson, the reigning champion, being one of them. Rory McIlroy also did not make the cut, along with Brooks Koepka, who is returning from knee surgery and said that this was the first time that he had walked 18 holes since his surgery, so not really big fault for Koepka there. And then Lee Westwood also could not maintain his recent run where he was performing really well, and he did not make the cut either. So a lot of big names did not make the cut. Obviously, you don't like when the defending champion doesn't make the cut. He'll be back to put the green jacket on whoever this year's winner is. But for now, that will be our first Masters update.
Thank you, Brennan. And those watching on YouTube, there is Masters music playing on radio. You can't hear it in the studio. We hear it through the headphones. So it was just Brennan pretty much whispering into a mic for you guys.
Yes,
it was, if you go on to the radio side, very just top of the line entertainment. And we hope to continue that through the hour. When we come back, we'll talk a little Yankees and Mets and how it's been an eventful week for their right fielder, as well as some other stuff, of course, our MVP of the week. And we'll bring on a special guest to preview Wrestlemania, which is night 2 tonight. So stay tuned. You're watching or listening to the MVP show.
If you found $20 on a walk, you would think that's a lot of money. If you had to read 20 books for your class, you would think that's a lot of money.
Do we want another PSA? This is
If you had
like
to
20
stay
seconds.
awake for 20 hours straight, you would think it's a lot.
After this, the
But on the
feed's gonna
weekend
play.
of April 16th, 4 VIC radio DJs are going to show that staying awake for 20 hours is easy by staying up for
I just need to
50.
adjust the mic.
This year's
Okay.
50
I put
Hour
another 30
Marathon
in.
benefits the Ithaca Children's Garden. More information at 50hours.org.
La la la. I love to ride my bike so I can feel the wind through my hair.
Hey kid, wear a helmet!
No, wait, Grandpa, because then I'd look like an idiot. The majority of bicycle deaths are due to head injuries. Helmets reduce the odds of a head injury by 50%. Don't be a dummy. Wear a helmet.
Really?
Up next on VIC, noon to 1, it's the place to be. Talking sports with the MVPs, that's Miller, Vicari, and Passante. NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, college sports, whatever you need. The MVP show where you need to be. Sports radio on VIC, that's MVP. Sundays on VIC, that's MVP. Sports Talk Radio, VIC.
Welcome back to the MVP show. You're listening on VIC Radio Ithaca or watching on our YouTube page, the MVP show page on YouTube. And you can also follow us on Twitter at the MVP show. Joined alongside by Brennan Miller and Dan Passante. We just talked a little Jets situation with Sam Darnold being dealt earlier in the week. And we'll talk now a little baseball. And it has been a week for both right fielders in New York. We'll start with the New York Yankees and Aaron Judge. It's, what is it now? The first or going into the second week, if you can call it that, for baseball. And Aaron Judge has already missed 2 games. The injury was soreness on his left side. He returned yesterday versus the Rays, went 1 for 4 with 2 strikeouts. But soreness on his left side, which took him out of 2 games, and the outfield had to get moved around. And, of course, with Jay Bruce struggling as well, it meant LeMahieu at first, and these different pretty much rotation in the outfield. So it's been rough early on. Of course, the Yankees without Luke Voit at first as well. So the defense has had to move around. And we won't, pretty much, for lack of a better term, BS you here. We're so early into the season. Yankees are 3-5 through the first 8 games. There's no panic button. There's no cause for concern in terms of how this team has started in the first 8 games. It's not great. It's not ideal. It's not what you want to see as a fan of the New York Yankees, but it is what it is thus far. The only thing that concerns me, Brennan, And it's not even this injury specifically.
Tell me what concerns you, John.
But it's just the fact that soreness this early. I love Aaron Judge. I think, and obviously the way the contract is negotiated with the Yankees, he's making less than he's worth, which is rare for an athlete nowadays, but it's the fact for Judge. And he deserves a big contract. He's a franchise player. He just is. He's a face of a franchise. Immense power, great ability in the field, the all-around package. He fixed the gap in his teeth.
He did.
But this injury this early just makes me uneasy. Again, not concerned, not overtly concerned, not it's earth-shattering, but the fact that you're sore this early on, and I don't know much. You only know what's about an injury, what's disclosed to the public, and that's what was disclosed to the public. It may be something worse, it may be something less. It may be, just plain soreness, and he just didn't want to overextend that, and that's it. But Aaron Judge, who played only 28 games in last year's 60-game season, in 2019, 102 games, in 2018, 112, and in 2017, really a full season with 155 games. But him getting injured this early on or having to sit out for 2 games is concerning. It's not a rest day like Stanton's gotten early on in the season, like Hicks has gotten on, like Clint Frazier's getting today. It's an actual injury and the body wearing and tearing for Judge, and he's special in a way because he's not your prototypical athlete. He's 6'7", like 250, and is in the outfield. And I don't think he's still young that the body's wearing over time, but I don't know, this just made me uneasy. Maybe, Brennan, you could alleviate my tension. And usually we're sort of the same in terms of our feelings towards the Yankees and not getting too concerned. And again, it's 8 games. But with this Judge injury, your thoughts?
Now blow it up, John. Trade him.
No, not what I said at all.
Yes, we don't. We can't handle it. He's injury prone. He doesn't do anything for the team when he's on. No, it's ridiculous. Aaron Judge, he's gonna win an MVP at some point. He just got to play full season first. We know that he gets injured quite a bit. Soreness in the left side, not a big deal. We knew that he was injured really when at the end of spring training he sat out games that he probably shouldn't have. There had to be something going on, and everyone kind of knew that. So this is not really unexpected. Judge, he's looking a little uncomfortable at the plate, swinging at pitches he normally wouldn't swing at, and obviously the injury has to do something with that. Give him an off day. Don't stress him out to the point where he's going to continue to get hurt or make the injury worse as the season goes on. I don't hate the move. We have outfielders.
Absolutely.
We signed back Brett Gardner for a reason.
Absolutely.
We know that Aaron Judge is a guy that gets hurt more than the average player. Is that frustrating? Absolutely. 100%. Like, when I hear that Aaron Judge is hurt, obviously the eyes roll and, it's going to be one of those seasons again where the Yankees 2 years ago were the most injured team in MLB history. And you have to kind of think that way just because that's how it has been in the past. But we signed Gardner back for a reason. Clint Frazier has, as of late, last season and the beginning part of this season, played at the level that an MLB outfielder needs to play at. His glove has been consistent, and we know that he can hit the ball very well. And then obviously Giancarlo Stanton can play in the outfield alongside Aaron Hicks, a guy who you gave a pretty healthy contract to, and you expect him to be around for a long time as well. So it's not overly a concern. The big concern for the Yankees is the fact that they're just not hitting the ball at the beginning of this season.
Yeah.
You like having a guy like Judge in the middle of that order where he can get fastballs for the other guys in the order because you don't want to have to get to him and give him pitches. So obviously it hurts the Yankees lineup as a whole when Judge is not playing. But at the same time, the Yankees just need to start hitting the ball. You talked about Jay Bruce. He has been absolutely terrible. I said at the beginning of the year that I expected him to have as many RBIs as games played. That's probably not going to happen at this point just because he has had such a cold start to the year. But he has to be able to give the Yankees some kind of offensive production from first base. We're going to see that today. Ruben Odor, who the Yankees traded for just last week, is in the starting lineup today, playing second base. DJ LeMahieu moves over to first. Obviously, LeMahieu is not naturally a first baseman, and you lose a little bit of his glove when he moves to first base. But if you can start getting production out of that first base position offensively, that makes a huge deal. Ruben Odor, even though he only hit, I think, 197 or something last year, he's below the Mendoza line, still led the Texas Rangers in RBIs. So he's a guy that knows how to drive the ball, and he knows how to get into the gaps. He's a left-handed power bat that obviously plays big in the Yankee Stadium, where you're afraid to throw to left-handers because you pull the ball, you hit a pop fly to right field, and might go over that right field fence at 314. You have to have guys who can mash the ball in the middle of your lineup. I think it hurts the Yankees when Aaron Judge is out there, but I think that moving the infield around and getting another power bat and Ruben Odor into that lineup makes it just a little bit better. At this point, I'd rather have Odor than Bruce.
So there you go, and Dan, you'll jump in on this, but only 2 home runs in the last 3 games for the New York Yankees, one coming from LeMahieu and one coming from Hicks as well. And in terms of my level of concern, I think it's the most concerned about, still not anywhere near, oh my goodness, concern, but the most for the starting pitching, the most for the starting pitching, just because Herman was optioned yesterday, and then there hasn't been really any great outings besides from Garrett Cole. And then next level of concern, one down, is probably Bruce is not performing, and then below that is Judge. So I want to make that clear, but Dan, if you want to jump in with your thoughts before we move to the other team in New York.
Yeah, I mean, I think I guess, I understand being concerned about Judge being injured. I mean, he does do that sometimes. But again, we're 8 games into the season. Right now, the Red Sox are in first. I don't think anyone thinks that's actually going to happen. The Orioles are in second. Again, just not going to happen. Probably the teams that we would think will finish at the top, the Yankees, Blue Jays, and Rays, are in the bottom of the division. So, for the most part, it's early. It's very early. As long as he can come back and play at least the majority of the games this year, I think that the Yankees will be just fine. But again, that is the question mark. That's what we will see if he can do that.
That was just the New York Mets because, of course, there was entertainment this week in terms of looking as an outsider. Not that we are. I think, we're pretty, though we're not Mets fans, we're pretty in the loop in terms of.
Not by choice.
Okay, but we are.
Wow.
But in terms of the Mets, they had their home opener Thursday against the Miami Marlins, and it was a great game. It was 2-1 going to the bottom of the ninth. Jeff McNeil sent a rocket to right field to tie it up, and then after 2 hits and then an intentional walk of Francisco Lindor, bases loaded with Michael Conforto up, 1-2 count, 1 out, and Conforto stuck out the old elbow, a pitch that probably would have been called a strike if it reached the catcher's glove, and was because
it would have been called a strike.
Yeah, because the umpire was in the middle of the call when then he realized, I guess the waveform of the sound sort of connected. He was like, oh, I heard something, on the elbow. Pretty much pointed Conforto the first, and the Mets walked it off. You look at the replay, of course, because you don't see this in live action. You see it on the replay, especially the slow-mo shot. Oh my goodness, his elbow was
Conforto got
across the
pulled.
plate.
He was looking fastball in a 3-2 count. With there were 2 outs, correct? There 1 out.
Yeah.
Okay. Mixed forces every play, so then obviously whatever. 1 out, full count. He gets pulled. He's looking fastball 100%. The slider comes in, and he says, you know what? I'm going to get K'd up unless I pull this move that even the Mets broadcast booth had a hard time with. Like, I think that's the thing that gets lost in a lot of this, is that Mets fans are going to take a win any way that they can get it, because even when your best pitcher's on the mound, usually you lose those games. So they're going to take it at every chance they get. But even the Mets booth knew that was kind of a dirtbag move by Conforto. And I tend to agree. Because if you're going to get fooled like that, get fooled and go down. Don't, be a dirtbag and stick your elbow out and get hit on the strike. The other thing that gets lost in this is that the umpire literally came out about 15 minutes after the game and said, I was wrong. I didn't know the rule. And the rule in the official MLB rulebook is strikes supersedes hit by pitches. If the pitch is going to be a strike and the batter leans into it, as Conforto did, he'll never admit to it, but it's clear as day, the strike supersedes the hit by pitch. So he should have been K'd up. Obviously, that goes against conventional wisdom where, you say, usually when a ball gets hit, then the ball would be dead, and that means it can't be a ball or strike because it never crosses the plate. That's the kind of the conventional way of thinking, but it doesn't. And I don't think that the MLB, he admitted that he didn't know that, and it should have been a strikeout, and the Mets should probably still be playing that game right now.
Yeah, Conforto said after the game that a win's a win, it's over, but I'd like to use the bat next time for sure. And in terms of the replay, I think that was the most infuriating thing. And as Brennan mentioned, even for the Mets broadcasters, the fact that, all right, we looked at it, it was egregious, Mets still win. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Okay. Like, and maybe they would have, Conforto strikes out, and then the next batter up, whoever that was in the lineup with 2 outs, knocks it in, the Mets still win.
Right.
Regardless, we don't know what would have happened, obviously, if it played out.
It's a lot more satisfying, too.
Of course. And, obviously, before, when any of this happens, and especially early on in the season when I think things are more magnified, just based on our Yankees points, too. Obviously, it's a short sample size. But people are comparing this to the Astros scandal, which is way too far. It's as Brennan mentioned, it's a dirtbag move. It's bad optics. You don't do it, and maybe Conforto has a target in his back now, at least versus the Marlins. But it just wasn't a smart move. I don't think it's anything again to that's gonna lose. People are gonna lose their minds over. It just wasn't a great look for baseball, and not a great look for Michael Conforto of the Mets.
Hey. That's a win. That's a W.
That's a W.
If you're not cheating, you're not trying. If we're going to keep changing rules in baseball, which, again, I'm fine with. I mean, I have my feelings about all these different things. Please, I don't like the robot umpire idea. I love the fact that there's a guy who messed this up and the Mets got a win because of it, and we're talking about it. Keep the people umpires. I know that they're inaccurate. I know that sometimes they get the rules wrong. That's part of the game. This is part of the game. The Mets got a win because the guy missed a call. That's how it works. Again, do I condone leaning in? Not necessarily, but it's a W. That's I think it's the bottom line.
That is the bottom line, and the Mets and Yankees both play at 1:10 today, right after our show, so you don't have to go anywhere and still catch the full game if that's what you choose to view on your Sunday afternoon. The Yankees play the Rays in Tampa, and the Mets conclude their series with the Marlins at Citi Field. Another Sunday.
It makes it for the win that they missed out on yesterday.
Yeah.
Where DeGrom went 8 innings with 14 Ks.
Hey, it was
got
a
the
gem for the
loss.
Marlins.
And got the loss. Jacob DeGrom, I know he was after one game. I'm not sure if he still is, but he really might be because he's batting 600. After one game, Jacob DeGrom was leading the Mets in batting war and pitching war. And he still hasn't stopped because he's 3 for 5 on the year. He led down an infield single yesterday. He still might be the most valuable player, not just on the mound, but at the plate for the New York Mets. What a waste.
That's just tough.
So you could choose on Sunday to view the Yankees or the Mets. We know what Brennan will be watching, and he's giving an update because it's currently in progress.
It's their second Masters update of the day. Because there's still really nobody on the course, I'm just going to run us through some of the contenders at the top. We have Hideki Matsuyama. He is an 8-year veteran who yesterday had one of the best rounds in his career, shot a 61 to go 11 under and take a 4-stroke lead. Behind him we have Xander Schauffele. Schauffele will be in the final group with Matsuyama today. Don't really have anything on him. Probably should have looked that up before I started talking about it.
Absolutely.
After that, Justin Rose. Rose was in first pretty much for the duration of the first 2 rounds, but has dropped back a little bit, played a little less consistently yesterday. I'm not sure what he shot, but it was around par, and he stays at 7 under. After that, Will Zalatoris. He is 1 year out from being an amateur. This is his first actual competition at the Masters. He is also tied at 7 under. He's going to be hitting in the 220 group. But Zalatoris is a guy that I think has the potential to maybe put up some competition for Matsuyama here in the final round. He's a young guy, so obviously he's going to have to focus in this final group. But that is going to be your second Masters update, the contenders for today.
That is a Masters update. We'll get one more during this show right before we go into our last break. We'll go to break now. When we come back, we're going to look at the NHL trade deadline. Maybe not a lot of moves, but we'll fill you in on that, as well as MVP of the week. And we bring on Jayden Becker, the Daily DDD podcast, to preview Night 2 of Wrestlemania, which is tonight. Don't go anywhere. You're watching or listening to the MVP Show.
Looking for your classic rock fix? Every Thursday, 6 to 8, you can join me, DJ Dog, on the Kickback. Listen to some classic rock tunes right here on VIC.
I'm getting a catcher's mitt.
I'm getting ice skates.
I'm getting a jigsaw puzzle.
Randomly put in the commercial for this one.
A blue bicycle.
A walkie-talkie. I'm getting a severe drought.
Cool block skateboard.
I'm getting melted ice caps.
A killer heat wave. A shrinking glacier. I'm getting a devastating flood.
Adults are generous. We're even giving kids global warming, but it's not too late. We can still reduce greenhouse gas pollution.
Yeah.
Go to fightglobalwarming.com. Brought to you by Environmental Defense, the Robertson Foundation, and the Ad Council.
Up next on
Alright, Jayden's in the waiting room. Yeah, I was gonna say.
Talking sports with the MVPs. That's Miller, Vicari, and Passante. NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, college sports, whatever you need. The MVP show where you need to be. Sports radio on TIC. That's MVP. Sundays on the
And you guys gonna join the Zoom to hear him?
That's MVP. Sports
Okay,
yeah. I see.
Ready?
This is the MVP show, most definitely. You found it. It is on radio at VIC Radio Ithaca. And on, yeah, you found it. Woo. And on YouTube, the MVP show. Our Twitter is at the MVP show if you want to follow us there. And of course, a link is sent out for both watching and listening before each and every episode every Sunday at noon. We talked some football, we talked some baseball, and now we'll go a little hockey because the NHL trade deadline is tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern. Dan, a couple weeks ago, gave us an NBA trade deadline preview, and it sort of is similar in terms of there's not going to be, I don't think at least, a big splash at the NHL trade deadline for this Monday. It's a shorter season, a 56-game schedule for the NHL, and a lot of teams, because an expansion draft is happening this summer with the Seattle Kraken, maybe not willing to make a big move because they know they have to protect a certain amount of players and let them go, so they can just let them go in the expansion draft and you know, not have to not bring in somebody that they might have to just give up in a couple months anyway, and also test the free agency waters because there really isn't that trade piece that I think is going to push a team a level above all the other contenders in the NHL. We'll see. The names that have been shopped around. Nolan Patrick's a 22-year-old center for the Philadelphia Flyers. 39 games played this year, Brennan, only 7 points, which is not great. He had a lot of potential coming in. He's been a Flyer for now 3 seasons. And Philadelphia, who are 2 points above the New York Rangers and in 5th place right now in the East Division, don't really... the Rangers are going for a playoff push, but the Flyers, it's sort of, are they a contender, are they not? Because in one game they'll beat Boston, and then the next one they'll allow 9 goals to the New York Rangers. So they've been as inconsistent gets, and there's been rumors that Nolan Patrick may be on the market, and you would think would go to a contender to add some depth and some youth there. So if the Flyers are giving him away, you would hope it's for a couple of prospects and some picks because he still is 22. Might as well keep him and see how he develops, especially because he was a draft pick. And in terms of anything else, Buffalo has been dreadful this year. So Taylor Hall, their stud. Yeah, like you can't even. There's not a word to quantify how bad.
One of the worst seasons in NHL history.
Yeah, they're lucky it's 56 games this year, so there won't be that direct comparison. Absolutely. And Taylor Hall, one of their stars, 37 games played, 19 points, solid season for him. Not what is Taylor Hall like in terms of you look at his career stats. He's a very good player, but again, as we mentioned, Buffalo just dreadful this year, so he might be on the move. And the thing that is tough for Buffalo is that the market sort of softened after a trade on Wednesday between the Islanders and the Devils. Kyle Palmieri and Travis Zajac from the Devils are now Islanders, and the Islanders gave up a first-round pick in this year's draft and a 2022 conditional fourth-round pick and 2 prospects, so the market has sort of softened. Well, Brett and I are just going to quickly discuss whether the Rangers should make a move or not. The one move that they made recently that I did not like at all, and Brennan, I know you agree with this, is getting rid of Brendan Lemieux. If this team, which I don't think will sneak into the playoffs, I'm hoping it's going to be a tough stretch because right now Boston is 5 points ahead of them with 2 less games played. So Boston's going to have to slip up and the Rangers are going to have to play well down this stretch. But Brendan Lemieux is someone you want on a playoff roster, on a rebuilding team. He just adds this level of grit and toughness, really. He's, you can call him a goon. I don't think that's a correct characterization. I don't think those exist anymore. But he gives you that edge that Jesper Foss used to give you, but he's in Carolina now. And now the Rangers, again, traded away.
Yeah, I think that it's been a while since we've seen a guy that plays the quote-unquote enforcer. And the Rangers had one, and they just decided to ship him out. And I don't entirely understand it. He's still a young guy. I mean, he was a guy that a lot of the team liked. Obviously, when there's someone on the team that is willing to step in and take a punch for you, you're gonna like that guy. And that was Brennan Miller for the Rangers. So I don't really understand that. I do. You mentioned earlier the Islanders and Devils trade Palmieri and Zajac for 2 prospects, a first rounder and a fourth. That's a big trade, especially in the Eastern Division. And I think that is going to have a huge impact on the rest of the season as it plays out. Palmieri is a very good player, as is Zajac. So the Islanders were very good. At this point, they have a 97.9% chance to make the playoffs, and they just got a lot better. So I think that they're a team that you have to look at going forward. Obviously, hockey playoffs, we've talked about it before. Once you get into the playoffs in hockey, literally anything can happen. We saw the Tampa Bay Lightning go on and put the best season together in NHL history, the most points out of anybody ever, and then they got swept in the first round. Right, so you have zero clue what is going to happen. John, I will say the New York Rangers, at this point in the last week and a half, have gone from a 58% chance to make the playoffs to a 15.1% chance to make the playoffs.
They had a great March.
Yes, they did. And this is at the same time where the rookies for the Rangers, the young guys, are not getting as much playing time as they probably should. Vitaly Kravtsov came in and finally made his debut for the New York Rangers.
Yes.
Even though his jersey was misspelled, they just added a random T in for some reason, which absolutely not a Russian letter. So, whatever, man.
You know about the Russian alphabet more than most.
He's one of your biggest prospects, and you can't even spell his name right. But the young guys need to get a little bit more playing time for the Rangers. That being said, I don't think they go out and make any moves because you have to ship those guys out to be able to get players back to try and make a run. And at this point, I mean, I've kind of given up on the season.
Giving up, Brennan.
I mean, would you rather have your players develop at the end of the year, your young guys who are going to lead you for the next, 15 years at this point? Absolutely. Would you rather have them develop at the end of the year or give them away to try and go on a run right now when there's clearly teams that are better than you?
Yeah. Well, it's the argument that we sort of going back to the fall with the Giants. Is it better to sneak into the playoffs and keep pushing or develop for the future? Is what's better, the development or a winning culture? And that's something you got to decide because I think you could do both. I know this may not be popular with Ranger fans, and Ranger fans are really down on Quinn just because of the development of these younger guys, really besides Keandre Miller. And if you want to call Fox a young guy, I sort of put him in the rookie box.
Like
Fox,
in his second year, absolutely.
Yeah, Fox is a stud. I mean, Fox is, if the way he's tracking right now, at least, I shouldn't even say tracking. The way he started, only Brian Leach has had a better start for Ranger defenseman. So I cannot tout Adam Fox enough. But the rookies, really, besides a Keandre Miller and, you could say Lafreniere at times. I think Kakos would be bad, but you want this development to happen. Believe me, I want to see Kravtsov, and just because we're up here in Ithaca, we want to see Morgan Barron, too.
Absolutely.
The Cornell grad, absolutely, but you still want, towards the end of the year, because I think you could still, Brendan, maybe you disagree with this, I think you could still develop these younger guys by putting them in positions where you're trying to make the playoffs, because that's the best experience, in a way.
I get it.
Yeah.
I mean, the playoff push is obviously important, but at this point, you have to be in contention for a true playoff spot. I mean, 5 points back, that's a lot of points to try and make up at the end of the year. I get it. Yeah, put them in. At this point, you have to put them in, which is something that Quinn has been struggling to do late in the year. But I get it. It's tough. It's high pressure. It's whatever. But that being said, you still have to make sure these guys are getting enough playing time to be able to develop as NHL players.
Absolutely. It's going to be a hard mix that David Quinn's going to have to work out. Brennan, I don't want you to give up yet. I'm not looking at it likely either.
That's fine. I mean, it's whatever. Yeah. At this point, the Rangers made the final in 2015, and that's what counts, right?
Yeah. Loss versus Kings 14-15, Eastern Conference final loss. Thanks for opening that up, by the way. Right as we go into the MVP of the week, which is supposed to be this cheerful segment, by the way. But that's what we're going into right now, MVP of the week. This is someone or something that we believe had a great week, and it could be in sports, news, pop culture, entertainment, anywhere on the face of the earth. And Dan, I want you to begin here with your MVP of the week. Of course, we don't know who we picked before the show, and we don't tell each other, and that's what makes it interesting.
So there is an Ithaca College MVP that I'm not going to cover because I think someone's going to talk about it at some point. I think one of the MVPs this week has to be your pet because today's National Pet Day.
Yes, it is.
Happy National Pet Day.
Yes,
I think another MVP that I need to bring up is people umpires because I love that we still argue about this in 2021. I think it's awesome. They are definitely an MVP. And I'm not happy about this, but I think I just learned this right now as I'm scrolling through Twitter. I think the MVP has to be Kim Kardashian because she's a billionaire.
Good for her.
She is. You know, as insane as it is that I think that those people are billionaires, they are. I think that's nuts. You know, what is our culture, man? It's kind of crazy.
It looks like half of Kanye's money is finally kicked in, so.
She made it.
Is that too much? Is that too far? I'm sorry. No. Kim Kardashian's earned it, of course. You know, it's not like her father was OJ's lawyer.
Well, you have like an invert on the Twitter right now, inverted colors.
It's
black and orange.
It is.
No, yeah, the VIC Twitter is pretty cool.
Yeah. As opposed to white and blue, it's black and orange. And I will say, she has earned a lot of her money on another black and orange website.
Oh my God! That's way too much fun.
Wow.
VIC Radio. This isn't just a YouTube show. No, I'm kidding. This is why you tune in, people, because the unpredictability. I don't know how we go from here. I really don't. I guess I'll go next. And, geez, there's no way to segue out of this. But my MVP of the week is Ithaca related, as Dan touched on. It's Tim LeCastro of the Arizona Diamondbacks. Look, LeCastro, maybe he's not a household name yet. Obviously, he plays in Arizona, which hurts. But he is a speed demon. Teammates say he would have a 99 rating in MLB The Show for just his speed alone.
He does.
He's 20. He does.
He's 99 overall speed, 99 overall stealing.
And he should, because he's stolen 28 of 28 bases, an MLB record without getting caught. And his cleats from yesterday's stolen bases, 28, are going to Cooperstown, going to the Hall of Fame. And why that's cool is because he's an upstate kid, Syracuse, New York, grew up near Cooperstown. Oh, what was that? Auburn, New York, more specifically. Yeah. And yeah. Oh, yeah.
I was waiting for that.
I didn't. Yeah. When I said Auburn, that's the first thing that popped in my head. But LeCastro, a great local story with the Arizona Diamondbacks, and deserves credit. But his cleats are the Hall of Fame, which is pretty cool from a kid that grew up near Cooperstown, and you know, it's really, besides obviously the Mets, which again we're forced to watch because of the people in our lives, but
not by choice.
Not by choice. But the Diamondbacks, you turn them on because Tim LeCastro is an exciting player to watch. He's either stealing bases, getting hit by pitches, or roping singles or doubles, and he's really involved with giving back to Ithaca in terms of going on shows like this one, and it's really cool that I think specifically, the record is what it is, that the cleats are in Cooperstown is awesome, and Tim LeCastro is my MVP of the week.
All right, I have two for this week, and they are going to be not in order or anything, and they kind of tie into one another. Alex Rodriguez is going to be one of my MVPs of the week.
Wow.
He recently, this week, decided to purchase the NBA's Minnesota Timberwolves and the WNBA's Minnesota Lynx. And he is now going to be an owner of those two franchises. He goes in with Mark Lore. Lore is the guy who's putting up most of the money. He's a billionaire, so he's can just throw it out whenever he needs to.
Sure.
But Alex Rodriguez is going to be a partner in that, and it now owns two professional basketball teams. The purchase price is expected to be $1.5 billion, which is just an inconceivable amount of money. I know that A-Rod doesn't have that, but that's why we partner up. So Alex Rodriguez is going to be owner of an NBA and WNBA franchise. And with that being said, my second MVP of the week is the new WNBA Nike jerseys.
I didn't see these.
They are clean.
Really?
They look great. I think I'm going to buy myself a WNBA jersey because
you don't have a team, right?
I don't. No, I do not have a team. The Liberty,
I guess.
because they're a New York team, and I kind of roll with New York teams other than Green Bay. But I think that the jerseys that the NBA just came out with for the WNBA, the NBA and Nike paired up to create these jerseys, we've seen them come out in the NBA. Obviously, NBA teams have, at this point, 23 different jerseys that they can choose for or select from on any given night. The WNBA didn't really have that option, and now that these jerseys have come out, people talk a lot about the fact that WNBA doesn't make as much money as the NBA, and it is a lost product. If you come out and you do cool stuff like this, where you make jerseys that me, a casual NBA fan, wants to buy, that is how you promote a product.
You'll make money.
That is how you make a ton of money,
Oh, yeah.
and that is the correct step for the league. And that's my second MVP of the week because I think that's a very, very cool step from the Nike and the NBA.
there you go, MVP of the week all over the spectrum pretty much in terms of things we are covering. And we're going to even extend that in our final segment. We bring on a special guest, Jayden Becker, the Daily DDT podcast, and he's going to preview night 2 of WrestleMania and go over last night, which was very eventful because of a rain delay. We'll talk about that with Jayden Becker. After this break, you're watching and listening to the MVP show. All right, so make him join.
Are you feeling depressed, melancholic,
What was that?
experiencing a case of the Mondays, blue, exhausted, emotionally drained, not excited, depressed, miserable, unhappy, dejected, or
Hey,
sad?
there he is.
Well, there's only one
There
cure.
he is.
Listening to Real Sad Lad Hours Mondays from
Hey,
10
can you
to
hear me?
midnight on VIC Radio.
At VIC, the voice of Ithaca College, we prioritize diversity and inclusion.
Can you hear me?
We are working to ensure that more voices are heard.
Can you
We
talk for a second?
support and will continue to support the Black Lives Matter movement and victims
I
of
don't hear him
police
right now.
brutality and racial injustice. We've heard you. We
Nah.
support you.
All right, have him join.
We advocate for change.
Just have him just call you.
Black lives
Medical
matter.
mistakes claim tens of thousands of lives every year.
Could you
The
call me
healthcare
on your phone,
community is
too?
working on
Just
it,
in case?
But you can help.
Yeah, I'll
When
use
you
the call right now.
communicate with your doctor, when you ask more
Alright.
questions, you reduce your risk of suffering a medical mistake. Doctors can't answer if you
I
don't
think
ask.
he might come through,
Help
too.
reduce your risk. Questions are the
Oh,
answer.
shit.
Learn the 10 questions you must ask. Visit www.ahrq.gov.
There you are. Okay, I'll put you on speaker
This
in a
message
second.
brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, the Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality, and the Ad Council.
Text on VIC, New One, it's the place to be. Talking sports with the MVPs, that's Miller, Vicari, and Passante. NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, college sports, whatever you need. The MVP show where you need to be. Sports radio on VIC, that's MVP. Sundays on VIC, that's MVP.
All right, I'll bring the mics back. Now.
All right, this is the MVP show on VIC Radio Ithaca as well as on YouTube, listening or watching. We appreciate it, and we are through pretty much most of the show, but we're going to conclude with a little WrestleMania talk, and we will talk with Jayden Becker. Jayden Becker is the host of the Daily DDT podcast, which you can find on Apple Podcasts and Spotify as well, and there's no better expert for this. He actually was wearing a WrestleMania shirt while watching yesterday with his family, and again, has a podcast, the go-to source for this. Jayden, thanks for joining us.
It's such an honor to be here with you, and thank you for letting me on the show. And you guys do a fantastic job. I know you guys all on your own are wrestling fans yourselves, maybe more on the casual side of things, but that's okay. That's what we need in the professional wrestling world. And what a WrestleMania was last night for WrestleMania Night 1. I had a blast, and I'm sure you guys had a blast as well.
We did, because there was a lot of different things for anyone, really, a casual fan to watch. It was an exciting night. I want to know your takeaways from last night.
Oh boy, last night for WrestleMania Night 1, what an event WWE put on. I think it might be fair to argue this might be one of the greatest WrestleManias, or honestly, greatest shows WrestleMania as a whole that WWE has put on in quite some time, maybe over the past 5 years. It could just be me saying that because it's the first time we're seeing fans in a year, a month, and a day, as they like to say. That's the first time we're seeing fans actually in attendance. But I think every match delivered on a level that not a lot of people expected. The fan engagement was fantastic. I know there was a rain delay in the beginning, and the one thing Vince McMahon can't control is the weather. And sadly, that did put a damper on things in the beginning. But we did get to see some promo work, some people on the microphone that we wouldn't have usually seen in a impromptu sense, which I think came out very, very well. And going forward, I think that last night's one of the biggest matches to come out of it was Bad Bunny's match. I know it might be crazy to say, but Bad Bunny sure put on a heck of a match. And also the main event of WrestleMania Night 1, looking at Bianca Belair taking on Sasha Banks. Bianca Belair winning that match. This was the first black women main event match in a pay-per-view in WWE history, and absolutely fantastic. They put on a show-stealing match as well, and also looking at Cesaro and Seth Rollins to also put on a fantastic match as well.
Yeah, and the only second time that WrestleMania has been main evented by a women's match, and obviously there's night 2 tonight, so there's 2 main events, but I don't think it should be taken away regardless. in terms, because you mentioned Bad Bunny, and he really stole the show last night. Celebrity involvement in WWE is one of its main things, and especially at WrestleMania. So there's a great performance between Bad Bunny and WrestleMania, and I think there's a lot of celebrity involvement. But in terms of sheer match, Bad Bunny's up there. But do you think he has surpassed Lawrence Taylor, who main evented a WrestleMania in WrestleMania 13?
Yeah, I think he surpasses it.
Wow.
I had to go back and watch the match with Lawrence Taylor so I can give you a legitimate take on it. And I watched the match with Lawrence Taylor. And Bam Bam Bigelow did a lot of the work in that match. And even though it was a singles match, Lawrence Taylor just bumped around poorly in that sense. Bad Bunny, it looked like someone that has been watching pro wrestling for a long time. This is very much how he was. He has been watching pro wrestling for a very long time. And also, in that sense, he performed to a level that no one expected him to perform at. It's not like he just came in here and just said, I'm going to have a wrestling match. He trained for this match for quite some time. He trained for WrestleMania since the Royal Rumble, which is back in January. He's been trained for this match, and usually when you have a tag team format, he's going to be the one standing on the apron, coming, cleaning up all the dirty work later on in the match. But after Damian Priest's tag team partner was involved, he was going to be the one to clean up all the dirty work. No, Bad Bunny was the one working the bulk of the match, and he did a fantastic job. Broke out some moves that I haven't seen done in the WWE legitimately in at least a year or two. The Canadian Destroyer on the outside of the ring. That move is rarely ever done in the WWE because it's legitimately a dangerous move in the world of professional wrestling. You're landing on the top of your head if you're the person taking the move. You only see that move nowadays in other promotions other than the WWE. You don't really see it in the WWE anymore. And for someone like Bad Bunny to be the one to execute that move, fantastic. We talk a lot about on the Daily DDT podcast about celebrity Hall of Famers and how important they are, or either how well deserving they are being in the WWE Hall of Fame. Bad Bunny has redefined as what it means to be a WWE Hall of Famer. He definitely has a shoe in right there.
Jayden, tonight, obviously we have night 2 of WrestleMania. The big match, Daniel Bryan, Edge, and Roman Reigns. Yeah, excuse me. In the triple threat match is the big highlight. We're running out of time here. We got 3 minutes left in the show. Give me a quick rundown of what happens tonight, not just in that match, but on night number 2 of WrestleMania.
Quick rundown here. The Fiend, I think, will beat Randy Orton. If you're looking at the main event of this WrestleMania, as you mentioned, Edge, Roman Reigns, and Daniel Bryan. Quick backstory. All three of these guys had to take time away from the WWE at some point because of legitimate physical injury. Edge with a broken neck, Daniel Bryan with multiple concussions, and Roman Reigns with leukemia. For all of them to be back on the grandest stage of them all at WrestleMania, and not only that, main eventing for the Universal Championship. I'm going to be more excited. They put them in a triple threat match. They're all together now. I have Roman Reigns winning this match at WrestleMania. It could be fair to argue Edge. It could be very fair to argue Daniel Bryan. There's one thing I always preach, never to gamble on pro wrestling because it's something that will lose you a lot of money. So that's one thing I always preach. But if you are a betting man, I would put down some on Roman Reigns. But it's definitely going to be a fun time. Get excited for night 2. Have some friends over. Obviously in a safe precaution. But, have a good time. Get some food. It's WrestleMania. This is supposed to be a party of all parties. Let's have a great time. Let's enjoy the show.
Jane, thanks for hopping on.
Of course, as always. Thank you as well.
And that was Jayden Becker of the Daily DDT podcast. And we touched on everything today. And that's, I think, why people tune in. Or maybe it's not, but I hope that's one of the reasons. We touched a lot. I mean, we went football, baseball, hockey, Kim Kardashian, and then recaps of WrestleMania. You can't get anything better.
What? That's my one wrestling shirt. It's Stone Cold. So excited to have that on tonight for WrestleMania.
Anything else we want? Oh,
no,
you're good.
Yeah, you looked at me like you expected me to have something to say. I think that's a nice little bow to wrap the show up on. Obviously, Jayden Becker and the Daily DDT podcast. Go listen to him. He has a show here on VIC as well. So
he showed it enough though, but thank you for doing it.
Yeah, he knows how to self-promote, and I'll give him that out of anything.
Absolutely. All right, thank you for watching or listening to the MVP show. We won't be on the air next week because VIC is having their 50-hour marathon. You should listen to that. It's a great cause, the Ithaca Children's Garden. So there won't be any sports talk on VIC next Saturday and Sunday, but we do have one more show, and it's Follow the Herd, which is coming up next. Thank you for watching and listening to the MVP show.